Today we're gonna make a 5-minute make-ahead Bulgogi-inspired beef marinade that is perfect for weeknight meals. Okay, so for this, very simple. Any cut of meat that you can slice very thin is gonna work well. We're gonna chop up this later, but first we've gotta make our marinade. I say kind of Bulgogi inspired because I'm kind of just riffing off of some fairly common elements. So we're going heavy with garlic and ginger. So we'll get our garlic started. Then I'm going to use gochujang, which I don't think is fairly common in Bulgogi. Some recipes have it, maybe some don't. And then just a little bit of light soy sauce and some ginger ponzu. So I forgot about this trick, but if you're trying to use a bunch of garlic, I think you can shake it really hard and everything should come loose. So let's see what we can do. All right, I think they're coming out. Let me see. Okay, let's see what we got. This mostly worked. Okay. So all the paper left behind, look at these. Perfectly shelled, garlic. If you guys remembered from, man, I'm losing track of the videos. One of the garlic videos, I was struggling with all the paper, and I completely forgot about this trick. If you are doing an entire head like this, you can, again, this bruises and batters the garlic, so I wouldn't necessarily recommend doing this unless you are like going to use the whole head of garlic, because this is going to start releasing all the aroma molecules and start, you know, it's raw. It's going to go bad if you just like, it's going to go bad quickly if you just, man, I almost lost my breath a little bit, a little workout. It's going to go bad if you just kind of leave this open and don't use it quickly. It's going to go bad much worse than if you left all the papers intact. But if you are using a whole head like this, I mean, that's way faster than how long it took for me to get through the other one. All right, a couple of these are intact, that's fine, but I mean, most of them are all good. Ooh, there's one there. And I'm gonna wash this because I'm gonna use this for the marinade too. Just need to get all the paper out. All right, now on to, I'm gonna actually use the mortar and pestle, which I didn't fully clean. A little bit of leftover spice in there. Okay, so for the ginger, just gonna use a pretty big chunk. And then when you're using like garlic and ginger in a marinade like this, because it's kind of sitting out and you're exposing, you know, all those kind of aroma molecules, you can actually use way more than you think to. It's almost, again, with aroma, especially when you're cooking it down and it's gonna be sitting in that marinade for a while, I always err on the side of just using a lot more than like a recipe would say. So if a recipe like gives you a very specific amount for, you know, a marinade or something like that, like you can just use as much as you want and it's probably gonna be perfectly fine. Like if you just wanna use it up, rather than being like, oh, I've got only a tiny bit left. This is enough where I can use for another recipe. But if I had like just this left, just add it to your marinade. It's not gonna affect anything. It's not gonna make it taste that much different. Because again, you're cooking down the ginger, as opposed to if you were adding ginger as a garnish, much more potent when it's fresh. All right, and then I'm gonna rough chop the garlic as well. And then I'll add just a tiny sprinkle of salt. Oh, all my salt's over here. Literally all my salt. This is all the salt that we're buying for a salt deep dive video, which I don't know if it's come out or not yet, but I got a lot of salt. Okay, so a little sprinkle of salt in here. And then just going to grind all this up with the mortar and pestle. You don't have to get a super fine paste if you don't want to. Just kind of like, again, mostly, you could also just finely mince all this if you wanted to. In this kind of specific application, it's not likely going to make much of a difference. But this is going to be kind of that nice basis for the aromatics for this marinade. Okay, then, so I'm going to use some ponzu. This is like a ginger ponzu, but really I'm just using it for the kind of the acidity in there. Going to add some soy sauce. I'm not being super exact just because it's going to, however much salt is in this is really just going to reach equilibrium once we add in the beef in there. So it's going to be kind of perfectly seasoned. And then just a big old dollop of gochujang. I don't know if that's maybe a tablespoon, maybe 20 grams. Again, not being super specific at this stage, just because it's a marinade. Like marinades don't penetrate super deep, so I don't know. I want to do a full fundamentals deep dives on marinades because they're kind of like, you want to make sure there's some salt level in there. You want to have some kind of aromatic. And then a little bit of acidity can definitely help kind of soften the muscle fibers up a little bit. But you could use a marinade before, after cooking. There's several ways to kind of go about it depending on what you want. But that's literally it. That's the marinade right there. The last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add some onion to this. More so thinking of onion in the way that they're being used in fajitas. So I'm just going to make slices, less so of like I'm trying to dice them up for the aromatics in this dish, though they will be aromatic, obviously. But they're more of a part, it's like beef and onion cooking together. Okay, so I'm going to toss my onions in there. Get our scraps, and then, like I said, I'm just doing the marinade right now, so I'll clean and wipe down this board after we're done. And then we're actually going to film another video while I pop this in the fridge, just kind of showcasing the make ahead point. Obviously, you could cook this right away if you wanted to, and it's still going to taste really, really good. So this is if I can get this thing out, this is a chuck eye steak, slightly frozen still. I just brought it out of the freezer and take off that string. And this is from like higher up. It's like similar to like I think it's like technically portion of the chuck roast, but kind of cut into steaks like this. And it's actually kind of nice that it is in this frozen, just because it's a little bit easier to slice down into very thin strips. That'll just be more tender when we go ahead and cook this. And then this cut is also great. It's kind of like a cheaper ribeye where, you know, since it is a little bit further up, it's not as nice of a, you know, maybe not as nice of a like uniform ribeye cut where it's like that one kind of solid muscle where it's super muscle fiber-y. But this is really perfect just because, again, you can already see how like tender this is gonna be just by getting these really thin slices, and then the fat is gonna melt down and mix in there as well. And again, I was starting from frozen and then just slightly de-thawed it. You could do this reverse where you could have a fresh steak and then slightly freeze it, you know, maybe 45 minutes in the freezer. That'll help you be able to get some thinner slices. And then a very sharp knife is also a good one. A sharp and a thin knife, which this Nikiri is very thin. A little bit of tougher silver skin in this piece as well. Okay, and then just gonna add the beef to the container. And then I'm just gonna mix everything up. We'll clean that, but all I'm trying to do at this stage is just get everything sauced up and involved with each other, and then that'll just kind of sit in the fridge. And this is something where, you know, the specific amount of time, again, it doesn't really matter all that much. Like, again, this is a weeknight meal. This is not like how to make the best beef marinade, you know, et cetera, et cetera. You could cook this right now if you wanted to. You could make this a day, 2 days ahead of time and just store it in the fridge if you're trying to prep this for your family. Or if you want to just do like a weeknight quick thing where it's like, hey, I'm working from home and I've got 20 minutes. Let me whip up the marinade for this and then I'll pop it in the fridge and kind of figure out when I want to cook it. So you can see like the onions just help it go a little bit further. Everything's nicely sauced up with that gochujang, the soy sauce, the garlic and the ginger. It's going to be super flavorful once we actually cook this. And then because it's sauced like this, it'll actually get some really nice like caramelization and Maillard reaction. But that's all there is to it. Very simple marinade. Gonna pop it in the container, pop it in the fridge. I'm gonna clean up, and then we're gonna cut this video, and we're actually gonna film another video while this is sitting in the fridge for maybe 30 minutes. And then we'll be back to cook this up. All right. Okay, so like I mentioned, I'm just gonna quickly clean this up, you know, 2-3 minutes, and then we'll cut here, and I'll meet you back in, you know, instantly in video time. Okay, so forgot to mention, also got some rice cooking. That's what we're gonna do, make some rice bowls with our beef. And now this is the beauty of like making the marinade ahead of time. It's just grab it out of the fridge and then we're gonna sear it quickly back on the wok. And we've got ourselves a meal. So you can see that meat, the onions, just kind of everything's getting to know each other. Nice and saucy. Let's go fry this up. All right, so we're back on the wok, and then instead of adding the sesame oil to the marinade itself, which you totally could do, I'm just gonna add a little baby drizzle right to the end, just so we can keep those nice little fragrant aromas alive. So this is plenty hot, sitting at like 550 right now. Again, we want this hot, and a little bit of oil. Just do one of these. And then, I mean, what's great about this is I think it's, you kind of want to do it in these smaller batches and then just drop it in. And really what I'm trying to do is just let that kind of crust develop on the bottom before actually touching it. It'll give us a little So just kind of mixing it up, but then flipping it over. But you can see a little baby piece, just some light browning on there. So while it's frying up, I remembered I had a little bit of leftover kind of roasted up asparagus. So I'm just going to use this just in the microwave, and then we'll plate it up as part of our bowl. All right, back to this. Let's see how we're going here. Get a taste. So tender. And at this point, you could adjust, like with saltiness, a little bit of acidity. You could add a little bit more spice in there. For me, I think this is really good right where it's at. So I'm just going to pull this off the heat. How do you open this? Bro, what? It's like got a thing, so you need to like unscrew it. I'm actually baffled. How do you get this off? Oh my gosh. It was on there tight. Holy smokes. I'm trying to get some sesame seeds. Okay. So, got our little bit of asparagus, a little bit extra greens mixed in with that onions. We've got our beef, and I'm going to do a couple just final little finishing touches to the beef. Okay, so first up, let me grab this. Let me dice this green onion real quick. Just kind of going on the bias. All right, so 4 final touches here. I'm gonna add, again, like I said, just a baby drizzle of this sesame oil, just to get that light fragrance. Then we're gonna do a little bit of sesame seed, which more for a visual. Again, sesame seeds, like, unless you kind of toast and ground them up, that's how you get sesame oil. Sesame oil itself is gonna be way more fragrant than the seeds. Then a little bit of our green onions. And then let's plate this up. Yeah, so we got our steamed rice. Just gonna do a light little amount. Obviously, you can do as much as you want. Again, this is just some leftover asparagus. Why not? Then we'll slide our beef down, nice and saucy. We'll do a little more, just for the visual. Least part of food for me is trying to make things look pretty for the camera. I don't have the eye for it. I don't have the patience for it, to be honest. I kind of just like to cook things that are really good, tasting, and aroma-wise, and eat them. Less so on the making things look pretty department. Now this, for me, this is the fun part. And you can really see, I mean, let's give this beef a go first. It's like unbelievably tender. Again, part of it is like that chuck eye cut, but also just because we sliced it super, super thin. Got a little asparagus. We got a little asparagus and beef bite. Some good stuff. So good. It's like tender, a little bit spicy, tangy, and just get the aromas from like the sesame and stuff, and the freshness of the green onions in there. I mean, phenomenal dish. You got to try some variation of this. We'll have the recipe up on Cookwell. But anyway, that'll wrap it up for me in this one. I will catch you all in the next one. Peace, y'all.